In 1937, one of the greatest pioneers for women was planning to fly across the globe in what would be the longest flight traveled in history, even longer than those of the men who came before her. Amelia Earhart is known for embracing celebrity culture and women's rights. And as Hillary Clinton stated in 2012, Earhart created a legacy that resonates today for anyone, girls and boys who dreams of the stars. Join us today as we discuss the life, disappearance, and mystery of Amelia Earhart. All right, everyone, welcome back to
Unknown,
Unsolved,
Unseen,
Triple U.
Woohoo! Welcome back to episode 80. The big 80. No, wait, this is 78. Shit. we recorded 79.
Listen, it's been a long couple weeks.
Yeah, we recorded 79 and then 77 and now
78.
78. So I'm like, oh yeah, it's 80. I'm like, ah, shit, I forgot. The other one still needs to come out. We already recorded our collab with Something Strange, which will be coming out next week. You guys will love that episode. But today, we got Sage here giving us the big facts. Because, once again, I'm your expeditious host, Frank.
I'm your couch detective, Sage. So, any announcements today before I get started?
Well, first off, life's been very busy for us. So just a heads up, after episode 79, I think the next two episodes are just going to be me and one of our friends. Sage just has a lot going on in her work life. She is a single mom that works 2 jobs and something. And
who loves her kids and never stops.
The heart of a survivor.
Heart of a fighter.
The heart of a fighter. I'm a survivor. You see how little I care about songs like that?
Yeah.
Too country for me.
Yeah. No, to be, open and honest as I should be.
For real?
Yeah, being for real. No cap.
No cap?
No cap.
Come 4K?
I'm just going through some mental health stuff, so taking a little bit of a break. Just to let my mind rest in the way that it can, hopefully. So
I believe you guys will be hearing from Kelsey again, and I think I have some people in mind I'm going to be asking.
Awesome.
So you might be hearing some from Friendos, Kelsey, who you all have hopefully heard before in our Joe Simonton, Eamon's Haunting, Sabertooth Cats, and Foo Fighters episodes. 3 of those episodes did very well. Foo Fighters did not do well.
I feel like that's one that's done a lot.
No, it's not even done too much. It's just the fact that there's a band.
Oh.
If you don't typically search for this one. Yeah, besides that, you guys are stuck with my episodes for, I think, 2 weeks in a row. Actually, no, 3 weeks in a row, my topics. So if you hate me, that sucks. And Atlas is whining in the background, so it might catch it. He is so energetic today. We've been to the park. He's played twice in the backyard. He's eaten, he's drank, he's gone to the bathroom. He just won't settle down.
He's basically an infant.
Yeah, he is a puppy.
But he is like so overtired that he won't calm down.
Yeah.
So we're forcing a nap, and he's not taking that nicely.
Well, what he does is he wants to go to the backyard and he takes a stick and he just wants to eat the stick and take it from me. I'm like, buddy, you've eaten, you've drank, you peed, and you pooped. And you played, you exercised, you ran. We've met every need of you beyond what normally you need, and you can't possibly have more energy in there.
Any tips, anybody?
Honestly, today, I've never seen it this bad.
Yeah, he's particularly whiny today.
Yeah. All right, so Sage, what type of dealio are we doing today? True crime, conspiracy, ghosts? Stupid people like flat earthers?
I would say it wouldn't work for flat earthers because she flies around the globe.
What? What's this? Okay, Glober. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean.
And today I would say it's a mix between like mystery disappearance, but also conspiracy, because there are some conspiracies about her disappearance.
So this 2 conspiracy episodes in a row, basically.
Yeah, I would say.
Because nobody knows next week's conspiracy, but it is a conspiracy.
Yeah. So just a few triggers prior to beginning here. So there's brief mentions of pregnancy loss, some alcoholism, brief mentions of torture, death, and disappearance, obviously. So Amelia Mary Earhart was born on July 24th of 1897 in Atchison, Kansas. Shout out to this town again.
Woo! Episode, I think, 48? No, 46? The 48 or 46 mentioned Atchison, Kansas.
Wasn't your episode in Atchison, Kansas?
Yeah.
So then
it would be odd numbers.
Yeah, it would be an odd number. Either way, go back and look and you can find for yourself.
Yeah.
She was...
I think 47 then.
She was the daughter of Samuel Edwin Stanton Earhart and Amelia Amy Earhart. And she was the second child of her parents, though unfortunately her elder sibling was a stillbirth in August of 1896. Following the family custom, as many do, including Frank's family, Amelia was named after her 2 grandmothers, Amelia Josephine Harris and Mary Wells Patton. Her younger sister, Grace Muriel Earhart, who, by the way, lived to be 99.
Wow. Yeah,
she was born, I believe, in 1899 and died in 1998. Crazy. She was.
What?
Yeah, I know.
No, what? Say that again, just so I'm hearing that right.
She was born in 1899, so she's 2 years younger than Amelia, but she died in 1988 at the age of 99. 1999. 1998. Jesus, I can't do math.
How many interviews do you think she did about Amelia Earhart?
The family has done a lot. They have a lot of the family has come out.
What was her relation again?
They're sisters.
Okay, that's what I said. Damn, 1998.
Yeah.
Damn, that's the year I was born, but she probably passed away before the very end of the year, which is when I was born.
Yeah, I don't have the
90s,
actual date written
baby.
down.
Woo!
So their upbringing was unconventional. Their mom, Amy, did not believe in raising her children to be, quote, nice little girls. The children's maternal grandmother, so mom's mom, disapproved of the pants that they wore, and although Amelia liked the freedom of movement they provided, she was sensitive to the fact that the neighborhood's girls wore dresses and she wasn't wearing them. So there was a little bit of like tension there. But ultimately she, wore pants and things, and she was a pilot. So in 1907, so Amelia was 8, Edwin's job as a claims officer for the Rock Island Railroad led him to be transferred to Des Moines, Iowa. That's how you say that, right?
Des Moines.
Yeah, okay, cool.
That's Moines.
So he and Amy would move there, and they left the children with their grandparents for some time. And so at the age of 10, Amelia saw her first aircraft at the Iowa State Fair in Des Moines. Edwin had tried to interest his daughters in taking a flight on one of the aircrafts, but after looking at the, quote, rickety fliver,
what?
As she called it, Amelia promptly asked if they could go back to the merry-go-round. Not sure which was to be the wiser choice, especially for someone like me who has vertigo. She later described the biplane that she was offered to ride in as a thing of rusty wire and wood and not at all interesting, which is funny when you think about where she ends up. And that is being a pilot, not dead. That sounded wrong.
Whoa, okay.
Sorry. So Amelia Earhart graduated from Hyde Park High School in 1916. She really wanted to have a future successful career. She actually kept a scrapbook of newspaper clippings about successful women in male-dominated careers, including film direction and production, law, advertising, management, and mechanical engineering. She then began junior college at Oakland School in Rydell, Pennsylvania, which is actually now Penn State Abington.
Yeah, Penn State! We are.
Penn State.
We are.
Penn State.
Thank you.
You're welcome. She did not complete that program, though, because she visited her sister in Toronto in 1917 and saw many of the wounded soldiers who were returning from World War I. And so she decided instead to receive training as a nurse's aide from the Red Cross. She then began working as with the voluntary aid department at Spadina Military Hospital, where her duties included food preparation for patients with special diets and handing out prescribed medication in the hospital's dispensary. Here is where Earhart heard stories from military pilots and developed an interest in flying.
Oh, when it's in the military, it's cool, but when it's as a kid, it's evil.
It was boring as a kid, not evil.
Scary.
So in 1918, any dreams of furthering her career while still a young adult, though, were paused because Amelia would contract the Spanish flu and become hospitalized for pneumonia and maxillary sinusitis, which she would end up suffering from for the majority of her life, until she had a successful operation in Boston around 1924. Since Amelia was in the pre-antibiotic era of health treatments, her sinus-related symptoms were debilitating and consisted of pain and pressure around her eyes, a lot of drainage from her sinuses. But while she was recovering at her sister's home in Toronto, she would pass the time by reading poetry, learning the banjo, and studying mechanics. This chronic sinusitis would significantly affect Earhart's flying and other activities in later in life, and sometimes she was forced to wear a bandage on her cheek to cover a small drainage tube. Because they used to insert a drainage tube through your nose, I would think, and she would have it stuck to her nose, because then it would help drain your sinuses. Painful.
Interesting.
Yes. So, in the early 1920s, Amelia and a young female friend visited an airfield held in conjunction with the Canadian National Exhibition in Toronto. And she's quoted as saying, "The interest aroused in me in Toronto led me to all the air circuses in the vicinity." And on December 28th of 1920, Earhart and her father attended an aerial meet at Daugherty Field in Long Beach, California?
I have no idea. Dotery?
What?
Dotery? Or I don't know.
Sure, whatever it is. She asked her father to ask about the passenger flights and flying lessons, and Amelia was then booked for a passenger flight the following day at Emery Rogers Field. A 10-minute flight with Frank Hawks, who later gained fame as an air racer, cost $10 then, which is now the equivalent to $160 in 2025 for 10 minutes.
What's that rate?
It was $10 for 10 minutes.
$10 for 10 minutes.
In today's money, that's $160.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So the ride with Hawks changed Earhart's life. She said, "By the time I had got 200 or 300 feet, so 60 to 90 meters off the ground, I knew I had to fly," which is inspiring. The following month, Amelia engaged Netta Snook to be her flying instructor, where the initial contract was for 12 hours of instruction for $500, which is now $9,000 in 2025.
Yeah, when you said the $10 to $500, holy shit.
Yeah, and so by working at a variety of jobs, including being a photographer, a truck driver, and a stenographer at the local telephone company, Amelia was able to save $1,000, which is the equivalent to $18,000 today, for flying lessons. So she got 24 hours total. She had her first lesson on January 3rd of 1921 at Kinner Field, and she was driving a crash-salvaged Canuck airplane that she had restored for training. She had to in order to reach this is how dedicated she was. In order to reach the airfield, Amelia had to take a bus from where she was living, then walk 4 miles to the airfield. Crazy.
You know what? Dedication is dedication, am I right?
Indeed. So Amelia ended up getting a part of that $1,000 too from her mother, though her mother would later say it was against her better judgment. And then she would crop her hair short in the style of the other female flyers, which again, Mom wasn't a fan of. 6 months later, in mid-1921, and against her flight instructor's advice, Amelia purchased a second-hand chromium yellow Kinner Airster biplane, which she nicknamed the Canary.
How much did that cost?
I did not write a price down, to be honest. After her first successful solo landing, she bought a new leather flying coat And due to the newness of the coat, she was subjected to teasing. So she aged in it by sleeping in it and staining it with aircraft oil.
What?
We love a savvy woman. We love a savvy woman.
You know what? Modern problems require modern solutions.
So on October 22nd of 1922, Amelia flew the Airster to an altitude of 14,000 feet, which set a world record for female pilots. And on May 16th of 1923, she would become the 16th woman in the United States to be issued a pilot's license by the Fédération Aéronautique Internationale, which I believe is French. She then found employment in 1925 as a teacher and then a social worker at Denison House, which is a Boston settlement house. And at this time, she lived in Medford, Massachusetts, and while there, she maintained her interest in aviation, becoming a member of the American Aeronautical Society's Boston chapter, and then she was eventually elected its vice president, which again, you go girl. She then flew out of Denison Airport in Quincy, helped finance the airport's operation by investing a small sum of money, and in 1927, she flew the first official flight out of Denison Airport. So she had done smaller flights and things, but like an official flight from that airport, she was the first one to do. In early 1928, inspired by Charles Lindbergh's successful solo transatlantic flight in 1927, which again, shout out to Morbid. They just did a 2-part series, I think it was 2 parts, on Charles Lindbergh's son who was kidnapped from his home. Very devastating case, but incredibly interesting. But I only recognize his name because I just listened to that one. So
that's the only reason you know him?
I mean, I haven't really looked much. I heard that later in his life, he's had some not so great opinions and actions. So, she was also inspired by American heiress Amy Phipps Guest, who was the daughter of Andrew Carnegie's business partner Henry Phipps Jr. And Amy announced that she would be the first woman to cross the Atlantic by air. So she hired a team of aviation professionals to support her journey. Pilot Wilmer Stoltz from Williamsburg, Pennsylvania, to lead the flight, mechanic and co-pilot Louis Gordon. So for the aircraft, she acquired a Fokker F-7B trimotor from the famed explorer commander Richard E. Byrd. Byrd had initially planned to use the plane for an Antarctic expedition, but when his backer Edsel Ford, son of Henry Ford, suggested using a Ford trimotor instead, Byrd agreed, and he sold his plane. He would later serve...
Admiral... Wait, what was his name?
Richard E. Byrd.
Yes, we've brought him up before, actually.
Have we?
Yes, he was part of the Hollow Earth episode because it's believed that he went down to Antarctica after World War II and fought the Nazis, possibly to get to the... because they were possibly guarding the entrance to Agartha into the Hollow Earth, or had a secret base in Antarctica with the aliens called Operation High Jump.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a huge conspiracy thing, is Richard E. Byrd. He is connected to so many other conspiracies. The fact he's in this is wild.
You have such a memory, because I would have never remembered that.
I'm like, Richard E. Byrd. I'm like, that's Admiral Byrd right there.
I have him written as commander.
I think he was eventually Admiral.
So, Byrd would later serve as a technical advisor for the transatlantic flight. That would be the last flight that Amelia would take. Amy. She named her plane Friendship to honor the special relationship between the United States and her new home of Great Britain, because that's where her husband was. However, upon learning of her plans, her family reacted with insane alarm. Her sons, Winston and Raymond, even threatened to quit Yale and Cambridge universities, respectively. And so, under family pressure, she reluctantly gave up her dream of making the flight herself. Nevertheless, she remained determined to see a woman achieve this milestone. So instead of flying, she resolved to sponsor the project.
So her sons ruined it.
They were worried about her safety. But she did get to sponsor the project, and so she began searching for what she called, quote, the right sort of girl. The candidate would need to be a pilot, well-educated, well-mannered, physically attractive, and American. And so who better than our very own Amelia Earhart?
Well, damn right better be American, and damn right she better be attractive.
Yeah.
We don't want any uggos going across and flying the world. Just being facetious.
Okay.
I just think, I mean, I get it because of just how people viewed women back there. That had to be an attractive woman, which is pathetic. That
Attractiveness equals intelligence, duh.
I know, and back then, definitely. But it's just like, it's so dumb that is the requirement.
Yeah. In April of 1928, George Palmer Putnam, who was the publicist and publisher of Charles Lindbergh's best-selling autobiography, We, and his friend Captain Hilton Rayleigh, found Wilmer Stoltz in a bar and catching him in a talkative mood. And Wilmer was part of the original flight list for the Amy Guest flight. So they learned of her. That's Captain Hilton Rayleigh and Putnam. Heard of Amy Guest and the true purpose of the newly outfitted seaplane Friendship. And so they resolved to take on the task of finding, quote, that right sort of girl that Amy wanted on her behalf. So Rayleigh reached out to his friend, Rear Admiral Reginald R. Belknap in Boston. And after hearing of the criteria outlined
Doesn't sound
by
as
Amy,
cool as Admiral Byrd in fighting Nazi aliens.
After hearing the criteria outlined for who Guest, like Amy Guest wanted as the female pilot, Belknap immediately replied, called Denson House, and asked for Amelia Earhart. Upon receiving the call, Amelia was initially skeptical, but she did agree, nonetheless. And prior to accepting the invitation, Amelia laid out her conditions. She made it clear that the role of a mere passenger held no appeal to her. She wanted the opportunity to take her turn at the wheel, controls, and something, okay, here's how I wrote this. She wanted her opportunity to fly it, and I wrote, take her turn at the wheel, the controls, something from the plane cockpit, because I don't know what to call it.
Nice.
Although she lacked experience with multi-engine aircrafts and non-visual instrument flying, it was agreed that, weather permitting, she'd be allowed to pilot the aircraft for a portion of the journey. It was written into her flight contract that she would hold the title of commander aboard Friendship, and she was granted final authority over all matters of policy, procedure, personnel, and any other issues that might arise during the mission, at least until their arrival in London. Both Wilmer Stoltz and Lewis Gordon would serve as her subordinates during the flight. Stranded by relentless dense fog and mechanical setbacks and all these different things, the crew of the Friendship endured nearly a fortnight of frustrating delays.
Fortnite. We love Fortnite.
Their departure...
I can't believe you used the word fortnight, like, properly.
Their departure was repeatedly thwarted by unpredictable tides, stormy seas, and sputtering engines. Again, lots of mechanical issues, which turned what should have been a quick refuel stop into a test of endurance. When dawn broke clear and brisk over Newfoundland on June 17th, and weather reports suggested marginally favorable conditions over the Atlantic, Amelia insisted they seize that opportunity to take off, despite objections from William Stoltz, who was nursing a severe hangover at the time. Although it was said that he was drunk all the time. Again, remember they found him in a bar to talk to him about it. They said he's drunk all the time.
Said that, I thought you said they found him in a barn.
No, a bar. And apparently he showed up on time all the time, but he was drunk or hungover.
You know what? Better show up on time than drunk. Better show up drunk than late.
I guess. Not to fly a plane, though. Jeez.
I mean, is it illegal to drink and fly?
Yeah.
Says who?
Says everyone. After nearly 2 weeks of delays...
Denzel Washington did it in a movie and saved everybody.
Friendship finally took to the skies. From early in the flight, the crew encountered fog, cloud cover, poor visibility, forcing pilot Wilmer Stoltz to rely entirely on instrument flying, which, although Amelia Earhart was a licensed pilot, she had no experience with this type of navigation, and so she was unable to take the controls from him at the time. So, unfortunately, she didn't get to fly the plane for this trip. Instead, though, she kept the flight logs, she helped with navigation checks, while mechanic Lou Gordon managed fuel and engine performance. Critically, the aircraft's radio had failed early in the flight, leaving the crew unable to transmit or receive any messages. But following discussions regarding the aircraft's fuel status, the challenging tidal conditions, and ongoing poor visibility, the decision was made to take Friendship to Buryport Harbor. It would be there in the small Welsh harbor town that Amelia's transatlantic journey officially concluded, securing her place in history as the first woman to cross the Atlantic by air. After a successful career of more flight competitions, promoting aviation, and marrying her PR manager, George Putnam, the one who talked to Wim Stoltz in the bar, and the one who wrote the biography for Charles Lindbergh, she then married him. But it was more of a marriage of convenience rather than necessarily a marriage of love, from what I'm understanding. Amelia would continue to go on to make historic solo flights. So on May 20th of 1932, Amelia would take off from Harbor Grace, Newfoundland, and after a flight of 14 hours and 56 minutes, she would land in a pasture near Colmore, north of Derry, in Northern Ireland. She battled strong northerly winds, icy conditions, mechanical problems, and as the first woman to fly solo nonstop across the Atlantic, she also received the Distinguished Flying Cross from Congress, the Cross of Knight of the Legion of Honor from the French government, and the Gold Medal of the National Geographic Society from President Herbert Hoover. She was the first woman to fly an auto-gyro, the first woman to cross the United States in that type of plane, the first woman to fly the Atlantic solo, the first woman to fly nonstop coast to coast across the U.S. She was the first person to fly the Atlantic twice. On January 11th of 1935, she became the first aviator, not just female, but aviator, to fly solo from Honolulu, Hawaii. Wow. Honolulu, Hawaii to Oakland, California.
It's been a long weekend, guys.
It has been. On April 19th, 1935, Amelia flew solo from Los Angeles to Mexico City in her Lockheed Vega aircraft that she had nicknamed Old Bessie the Fire Horse, which if I didn't already love her, this would make me love her so much more. Old Bessie, I love that. She was also the first person to fly solo nonstop from Mexico City to Newark, New Jersey. She was the first person to fly solo from the Red Sea to Karachi. She held the world altitude record for women at 4,300 meters, so 14,000 feet, which I had talked about earlier. She held the women's speed transcontinental record. And between 1930 and 1935, she would set 7 women's speed and distant aviation records in a variety of aircrafts, including the Kinner Airster, the Lockheed Vega, and the Pitcairn Auto-Gyro. Overall, she held speed records for 62-mile flight, an altitude record for the Auto-Gyros, which was 18,415 feet, and she held the speed record for east to west flight from Oakland, California to Honolulu, Hawaii. I would say I don't know when or if these records have been broken. I was going to say I'd have to assume so because the planes we have now travel at 500 miles an hour.
Commercial airliners go these paths and break them.
But in solo flights in this time when flying was just kind of becoming a bigger thing in the 30 years when she was doing these things, of course she was going to hold a lot of those records.
Being the first woman to get most of these records is still insane.
It's absolutely insane. And she was physically attractive while doing it. Fuck yeah. Go women.
Damn.
All I could think of is
I'm here for
the
women's
Amelia
rights
Earhart,
and women's wrongs.
The Amelia Earhart that's in the museum.
I was going to wonder if you would bring up the museum Amelia Earhart.
As I'm sure those that are listening are aware, Amelia is known for her desire to travel a global flight, where she would plan to fly the entire way around the world. Again, flat earthers would say, no.
Around the disc. Duh.
They would say that she didn't try to fly around. She tried to fly around the globe, but because the globe doesn't exist, she hit the ice wall and then died.
Oh my god, maybe they actually killed her to hide the flat earth.
Maybe. Hopefully not. Unfortunately, though, as you're probably also aware, and because we're talking about her on this podcast, Amelia is known for not making that flight successfully. So in the beginning of 1936, she began planning to make the trip, and if she succeeded, she would become the first woman to ever do so, as well as the first person to ever do so, again, breaking records that she had done so many times prior. While others, men, had flown around the world, Amelia's flight path followed a roughly equatorial route, and so it would be the longest recorded flight at 29,000 miles. Insane. Literally insane. She chose Fred Noonan as her second navigator, who she met through other connections in the Los Angeles aviation community. There was other people who were going to be on this flight, but with use of fuel, cargo weight, things like that, it was some of those people stepped off because of the weight. So a second navigator was needed, though, because there were going to be significant additional factors that would need to be monitored while using celestial navigation for the aircraft. And since Fred Noonan was a licensed...
From the firmament.
Since Fred Noonan was a licensed ship captain, he had navigation understanding for both marine and flight navigations, and so he was the perfect person to have as her second in command there. On March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, of 1937, Amelia and her crew set out on the first leg of the trip from Oakland, California to Honolulu, Hawaii, but ultimately had to abandon this attempt after a non-fatal crash that damaged the aircraft, and it needed to be repaired. So, another setback. A few of the crew members would remain on the land, again, due to weight and fuel usage. Due to weight and fuel usage. So the crew now just consisted of Fred and Amelia. The pair left Miami on June 1st of 1937 and made their way south, where they completed numerous stops in South America, Africa, the Indian subcontinent, and Southeast Asia, and then arrived at Lae, New Guinea on June 29th, 1937. So that's 28 days of flying.
I don't think I could do that.
That's insane. And that's
28 days of working. Actually, I struggled 1 day of working.
Fair. That's 22,000 miles of the 29,000 mile trip completed. So she was over 2/3 of the way into her trip. Almost there.
Did she have to take some detours for the president?
Also, this is so dumb. The last 7K would be over the Pacific, except I wrote specific.
The Pacific Ocean. The specific one that's out in the Pacific.
Again, it's been a freaking week.
The Pacific Ocean west of California. It's very specific out there. Might even be specifically the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah. So I believe that last 7 would put her over the Pacific, landing back in California, is my understanding. And so after taking a few days to rest, the pair again took flight on July 2nd, 1937 at 10 a.m. local time. And the destination was Howland Island, about 2,500 miles away from, and an estimated 20 hours of flying. The craft left with 1,100 U.S. gallons of gasoline. And the pair would communicate with the U.S. Navy ship that arrived at the island to assist with navigation and communication. The pair would communicate with a U.S. Navy ship that arrived at the island to assist with navigation and communication. Unfortunately, though, communication was intermittent and Amelia could not find the island. The last voice transmission from the plane indicated that Amelia and Fred were flying along a longitudinal line that should have led them over Howland Island. However, after all contact with Howland Island was lost, attempts to reach Amelia's plane were futile, and they even used Morse code, but nothing appeared to be reaching the plane, and they weren't able to hear from her. Reportedly, there were weak or unintelligible signals from Amelia's plane being heard across different channels in the Pacific, but there wasn't enough to find the plane. So I guess other flight people and even the U.S. Their radio stations, I guess, could hear some sort of call from the plane, but not enough for them to understand where the plane was or what they were saying.
They knew there were calls, just didn't know what.
Yeah, so I actually just opened my Facebook earlier, and a friend of mine had posted something about how, let me see if I can find the actual. If I had been taught in primary school that Amelia Earhart died because men ignored dozens of distress calls from her, that would have been a lot more helpful to my life than growing up scared of the Bermuda Triangle. Which I honestly think is fair, because there was distress signals heard. Some sort of weak or unintelligible signal, although I can't necessarily, say that the men purposely ignored it. So we don't know, because her plane's never been found. Many researchers believe that Amelia and Fred died during or shortly after what they considered or would understand as likely a crash that occurred. Despite this theory, though, search efforts still commenced, and, as they should have in case the pair were still alive, castaway type situation. Beginning about an hour after Amelia's last message, the local Navy ship, U.S. Navy ship, undertook an unsuccessful search north and west of Howland Island. And over about 3 days, the U.S. Navy sent available resources to search the area near Howland Island. Official search efforts lasted until July 19th, 1937, so about 2 weeks. And at $4 million then, so equivalent to $90 million in 2025, the air and sea search by the U.S. Navy and Coast Guard was the costliest and most intensive in U.S. history up to that time. Despite this unprecedented search, though, no physical evidence of Earhart, Noonan, or the Electra 10E plane was found. And in probate court in Los Angeles, which I guess is just a type of court, Amelia's husband, George Putnam, asked to have her, quote, declared death in absentia, and he wanted to have the 7-year waiting period that you have to have in order to consider somebody dead waived, so that he could manage her finances, which immediately my brain is going ding ding ding, suspicious.
How long between?
So it was like within a year and a half of her missing. He asked for the 7-year waiting period to be waived on an in absentia.
A year and a half?
Yeah.
I mean,
to manage her finances, though.
It also sounds like it could be to get closure too. At that point, like they're probably not coming back.
Yeah. So as a result, Amelia was declared legally dead on January 5th of 1939. This means that someone is legally declared deceased or presumed dead despite the lack of direct proof of their death. And so George Putnam was able to lay the memory of his wife to rest and also manage her finances.
All right. Well, guys, before we get into anything further, let's get a quick message here from some of our friends.
Hey, he's Kian.
And she's
And together
we're the hosts of Do You Dare.
So, Do You Dare is our podcast where we discuss all things true crime,
All things paranormal.
and all things history, mystery, and beyond.
Plus, don't forget the aliens.
Oh, that's silly of me. How could I forget those?
We're just two British siblings with mics, hoping to bring some spooky, some twisted, and some downright sinister to your ears.
If you like what you're listening to right now, type in Do You Dare into wherever you get your podcasts and join us as we delve into all things dark and spine-tingling with our customary British flair.
Come join the dark side. If you dare.
All right, guys, thanks for listening to that message from our friends. Now back to some aeronautical mysteries.
Yes. So, what happened? What happened to her plane? And to her, and to her navigator.
Yeah, let's not forget about our boy Fred.
Well,
Fred matters.
Yeah, honestly, there really isn't any answers. So, like I mentioned earlier, the general consensus is that the plane crashed and the pair perished in the Pacific Ocean. And yes, I spelled it correctly as Pacific.
Or the other consensus is they got marooned on an island and coconut crabs ate them.
Okay.
Have you heard that one?
No, but you can tell me that later once I get through with the ones I do have.
Do you know what a coconut crab is?
Are they really big?
Huge.
Yeah. So many believe it was due to a lack of fuel, due to a communication from Amelia shortly before they lost connection that stated that she was running low in terms of her fuel tank capacity. And again, an extensive search by the Coast Guard and the U.S. Navy, though, found no physical evidence of the flyers or their plane in that area. Tom D. Crouch, senior curator of the National Air and Space Museum, said that the Electra is, quote, 18,000 feet down, and he compared its archaeological significance to that of the RMS Titanic, which honestly, I would probably agree that with this being one of the greatest aviation mysteries in the world, obviously outside of things like Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, the other flights that have gone missing, Uruguayan flight. What?
You have all of our aeronautical mysteries so far.
You think that's because my brother's an aeronautical engineer and I just inherently want to be cool?
Or maybe you hate cryptids and aliens and just want to do shit like this.
That sounds better.
Alien hater, cryptid hater.
Well, I don't hate
You're
them.
racist against cryptids.
You have enough love for them.
You are racist against Sam Squinch, the Loveland Frogman. They have wands like Harry Potter, and yet you don't talk about them.
That would be right.
You should talk about the Loveland Frogman. Maybe they hit a little Avada Kedavra when they see people.
Cadaver?
Cadavra. Avada Kedavra. Isn't that it?
Cadaver.
Is it? It was Cadavra. What is it?
Avada Kedavra.
Avada Kedavra? Okay.
Avada Kedavra.
I thought there was a rah at the
I'm
end.
pretty sure it's not abracadabra.
I said it's Avada Kedavra, I thought.
I don't think it's cadabra yet.
You know what it is? Actually, random thing. Thought, this is my tism hidden, but did you know there's a Pokemon called Abra, and you know what Abra evolves into?
Abracadabra?
Kadabra. You know what Kadabra evolves into?
Abracadabra.
No, Alakazam.
Oh.
Abracadabra, Alakazam.
It's Avada Kedavra.
Was I right?
Yeah, it's
Frank's right.
Cadabra.
Frank's right.
It's not Cadabra. Cadavra.
Swoosh, because you guys can't obviously see, I acted like I was dribbling a basketball and I shot it over Sage and got the 2-pointer. Actually, no, fuck it. It's a 3-pointer. It's my imaginary basketball. I can determine the points I make when I swoosh.
And just so you know, it was outlawed in 1717.
Okay, well, maybe the Loveland Frogman is just a dark wizard.
Maybe.
We got really off track here.
Voldemort didn't explode into tiny fragments of pieces. He flew to the United States.
And became the Loveland Frogman.
Frog. I mean, he does kind of have the frog-like skin texture in that train scene.
True. There's so much more I want to say on this, but we should probably reserve this for a Loveland Frogman episode.
True. So, a series of misunderstandings, errors, or mechanical failures are likely to have occurred on the final approach to Howland Island. Fred had earlier written about problems affecting the accuracy of the RDF in navigation. I don't know what RDF stands for, but it's something. Another cited cause of possible confusion was that the local ship that was at the island communicating with them planned their communication schedule using time systems that were set a half hour apart. Earhart was using the Greenwich Civil Time, and the ship was using a naval time zone designation system. So I don't really know how that fits into this, but it's possible something with the time got them messed up. The Gardner Island hypothesis proposes that Amelia and Fred were unable to find the Howland Island, and so they continued 350 nautical miles south to Gardner Island, which is now known as the Nikumaroro and is one of the Phoenix Islands. This island was uninhabited at the time, and the pair could have possibly survived for a short period of time on that island as castaways.
Oh, and that's where my thing comes in. Coconut crabs are present on Gardner Island.
Are they really?
Yes, I googled it. Have you?
I definitely didn't read anything about coconut crabs, so...
Oh my god, people make so many memes about it.
That's sad.
That's a coconut crab.
That's disgusting.
That's how big they are.
Oh, they could... Oh my god, those are real pictures?
Yes, these things are... Look at it next to dog.
Marley.
Yeah, oh yeah, they can also just take seagulls. Like that crab, that claw on that crab. Oh, hey, look, there it is. Amelia Earhart and coconut crab in the same picture.
Wait, the title. Read the title.
Meet the world's largest land crab that may have eaten Amelia Earhart.
Oh my god.
I can't believe you didn't come across this. Yeah, coconut crabs are absolutely massive. They're actually you don't want to fuck with them because if it grabs you, you can't pull off that pincher. It will crush your bone, I believe.
Think
about
you tend to have the brain rot things on your Facebook, or not Facebook, your social medias. I tend to not, so not a surprise at the coconut crab. Although that sounds like a legitimate theory because those things sound fucking
that's
terrifying.
A legitimate theory. People think that coconut crabs ate Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan.
Yeah.
Look, if I type in coconut crab and immediately type in the word A, the top three results are coconut crab, Amelia Earhart, coconut crab attack, and coconut crab Australia.
Horrifying.
Yeah, this is a popular theory. Let me just see. National Geographic has one. Colossal coconut crabs may hold clue to Amelia Earhart's fate. 2019. Yeah,
I did use National Geographic as resources for some
Atlas Obscura, Natural History Museums. Yeah.
All right, so I accept your theory of the coconut crabs.
The UK Natural History Museum has an article about how they might have killed Amelia Earhart. Earhart. I said Amelia Aircraft.
I totally heard that in my brain and was like, Yeah, that's right. So, on the island, a week after the plane's disappearance, the Navy, who again, remember, they were searching for Amelia for like a little over 2 weeks, so this was within a week. The Navy spotted, quote, signs of recent habitation on the island, but because they were unaware that no one had lived there for 45 years, it wasn't suspicious to them, and so they didn't check it out.
Real quick, can I tell you something? It's even on the Wikipedia page for coconut crabs. That the popular internet urban legend suggests that Amelia Earhart crash landed on Nicomaroro, and her remains were rapidly consumed. Yeah, and her remains were rapidly consumed by coconut crabs on the island. However, as no evidence of Earhart's plane has been found on or near the island, this theory is generally discredited by historians. But nonetheless, it made it even to the Wikipedia page for coconut crabs.
Wow.
I can't believe this didn't come up in any of your thing about coconut crabs.
I didn't see it, but I mean, it doesn't. I mean, I'm not looking at all the sources on the internet.
Maybe the coconut crabs are employed by Globers to kill people so they don't expose the flat earth.
So in 1940,
You really skipped over that.
alleged human bones were recovered from the island and were later found by some researchers to have a high likelihood of belonging to Amelia.
Did they have coconut crab marks on them?
I don't know, but I was thinking that right now when I was reading that of like, well, maybe because it was small bone fragments. And if the coconut crabs can do they eat the bone?
I don't know if they might if they break it up.
Like you said, they can break.
They can crush stuff easily.
So it's possible. But an international group for historic aircraft recovery, also nicknamed Tiger, which is Tighar, Tighar, also found fragments of a cosmetics jar that may have been used to hold Amelia's freckle cream.
Hey, real quick, 742 pounds of force for a 4 kilogram coconut crab.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's 3,300 newtons. That's actually
insane.
Yeah, how strong coconut. So, they crush coconuts' bones and snap at a force greater than most terrestrial predator bite forces.
That's insane. I was gonna say, what's the?
It does say bone on there, and
what's the alligator bite force?
Alligator or crocodile? Because crocodile, I think, has the biggest.
Whichever. What are the animals that have the biggest bite forces?
Saltwater crocodile, I believe, has the highest bite force of any animal in the world. And in newtons, that is 16,414 newtons.
And what was the?
4,400.
Okay, so
but, saltwater crocodile is a bone-breaking animal.
But also, this is the crab's claw, right?
Yep.
So claw versus jaw.
Yeah.
That's a fourth of that. That's still crazy insane for a fucking appendage.
Yeah, that's actually insane. You know what land predator has the highest ever bite force?
No. Hippo?
No, Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Oh, well, that would make sense.
It's estimated between 35,000 newtons to 57,000 newtons.
Well, haven't you seen any of the Jurassic Park? Of course it's going to have a freaking bite force that insane. Because it doesn't have arms.
Even the other dinosaurs that they showed for the big ones, like Giganosaurus and Spinosaurus, they don't have nearly as strong of a bite force as a T-Rex had.
That's crazy.
The Giganosaurus had more razor-sharp teeth, and a Spinosaurus had conical for fishing, and a T-Rex had crushing teeth, which is insane, because also, if you think about it, equal and opposite forces, because if a T-Rex's jaw can withstand that force, it has to be able to take that force back. So a T-Rex skull is very fucking strong, and animals that can do this damage can take them, are very resilient. So also, coconut crabs are not easy to be fought off, I'm pretty sure.
I doubt it. They're huge.
Because I'm pretty sure if they clamp onto you, you can't get that off.
How fast do you think they run?
They don't go that fast, but you're stuck on a fucking island. Where the hell are you gonna go? And there's a shitload of coconut crabs on the island, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
they can climb trees.
Oh, I was gonna say, could you climb the top of a tree? But I guess fucking not.
Coconut crabs climb trees.
I hate this. So can we move on?
I hate coconut crabs too. They do terrify me.
Yeah, no, that sounds horrible. I'm never going over there now.
Good.
Cool. Also, your tism was showing.
Oh, my tism 100% was showing. But like in relation,
Don't worry, guys. That's like a joke that we have, a running joke in here. Frank's not offended by me saying that. I hope so.
It does relate to coconut crabs, and there is like
No, that's
it's
really
church and urban
interesting.
legend, but a lot of people who are not historians believe that she was eaten by coconut
That's
crabs.
so sad.
The fact it made it to the Wikipedia page, National Geographic, the UK Natural History Museum, they've all written on how she was possibly eaten by coconut crabs.
Yeah. So I didn't go into other specific details of the findings on the island. There was honestly a lot of like jargon I didn't understand because it was a lot of like coordinates and that kind of stuff. I also didn't really feel like typing it out if I'm being honest. But if you're interested, you're welcome to look into that. Definitely check it out. But that's kind of what I have for that first theory. The arguably probably one of the most well-known theories, I would say, outside of that one, is the Japanese capture theory. So another theory is that Amelia and Fred were captured by Japanese forces, perhaps after somehow navigating to somewhere within the Japanese South Seas Mandate. It's thought that they were tried then for espionage and then tortured and executed. In 1990, the NBC series Unsolved Mysteries broadcast an interview with... Now, can you tell me if I'm saying... I don't know if you can tell me I'm saying this right. Is it Saipanese?
What?
Saipanese?
I don't know what the word looks like.
S-A-I and then Panese. So, like, instead of Japanese, it's Saipanese?
Japanese or Saipanese? I don't know.
I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, and if I am, please let me know. But they had an interview with these women who claimed to have witnessed Amelia and Fred's execution by Japanese soldiers. No independent confirmation has ever emerged for any of these claims, though. But there have been various supposed photographs of Amelia Earhart during her captivity that have been identified as either fraudulent or having been taken before her final flight. So really no evidence there. There are reportedly stories from Saipan natives, so that's, I think it's Saipanese, that two white people, quote, who came from the sky, end quote, including a, quote, American lady flyer, end quote, were buried on the island. A 1960 newspaper article released in 2025 as a part of the Earhart files quotes a former army sergeant who said he was shown the unmarked grave in 1944, and he also believes that these are the graves of Earhart and Noonan. There is a slightly different version of the Japanese capture hypothesis.
Guys, we do have another dog here that isn't Alice, and she was just like snoring a little bit, so you might hear her there.
Very cute. So there's another version of the Japanese capture hypothesis, and it's not that the Japanese captured Amelia Earhart. It's that they shot down her plane. Henry Kaiser Andre, a former Pan Am pilot, introduced this view in his book, in his 1993 book, Age of Heroes, Incredible Adventures of a Pan Am Pilot and His Greatest Triumph, Unraveling the Mystery of Amelia Earhart. So there's another theory that this dude threw out there. In 2017, a History Channel documentary called Amelia Earhart, The Lost Evidence, proposed that a photograph in the National Archives of Jalu Atoll in the Marshall Islands was actually a picture of a captured Earhart and Noonan. The picture showed a Caucasian male on a dock who appeared to look like Noonan, and a woman sitting on the dock but facing away from the camera, who was judged to have a physique and haircut that resembled Amelia Earhart's. The documentary theorizes that the photo was taken after Earhart and Noonan crashed at Amelia Atoll, but the lost evidence was quickly discredited because the original source of the photograph was found to be a Japanese travel guide published in October of 1935, implying that the photograph was taken in 1935 or before, and therefore would be unrelated to the disappearance of our two aviators. A common criticism of all versions of the Japanese capture hypothesis is that the Japanese-controlled Marshall Islands were considerably distant from Howland Island. To reach and land there would have required Earhart and Noonan, though being low on fuel, to change her northeast course as she neared Howland Island and fly hundreds of miles northwest.
Now, do you go into the fact that there's belief that she was also taking photographs for the president to spy on Japanese installations within the Pacific? Because at this point, Japan was ramping up its acquisition of Pacific Islands and continental Asia. Because we're talking 1937, right?
Yeah, Pearl Harbor was not even a decade later.
1941.
Yeah.
But within the early to mid 30s, Japan already started its expansion into Asia and the Pacific. So we knew something was most likely going to happen. There was a lot of belief, I believe, at the time that Japan was going to eventually attack us, that it was going to be inevitable. But I believe, and I don't know if you bring this up, I could be just speaking ahead because I've listened to stuff about this before, but there's the belief that FDR tasked her with taking pictures of certain Japanese islands and installations and going a bit off detour, which would potentially lead to her capture or her shoot down.
Mm-hmm.
You go into that?
Mm-hmm.
Did I just spoil that?
No, I don't go into quite as much detail as you had.
I didn't even have that much detail, but that is...
I just had like a brief sentence on it, so you definitely have more information about it than I did.
But there is a belief that potentially happened because, and I did mention this to you before, when some islands were taken, there were reports, and I don't have the source on this, this came from an episode of Astonishing Legends, where some soldiers said that they had found Amelia Earhart's plane in one of the places, on an island they took from the Japanese. And top level orders, they had to destroy the plane to hide the evidence, because it could not be let known to the public that the government was working with Amelia Earhart to spy on the Japanese. They didn't want to ruin her reputation, so they destroyed the plane when they found it.
It wouldn't surprise me.
There are apparently soldiers who reported that, like, afterwards, like, hey, yeah, we destroyed her plane. It was intact, and the Japanese had captured her. She most likely died a prisoner.
Wow. Yeah, so she would have had to travel hundreds of miles northwest with being low in fuel, which was a feat quoted as not supported by the basic rules of geography and navigation. It wouldn't have made sense for her to do that. It would have made more sense with her low fuel reserves to continue to circle to try to find Outland Island.
Yeah, unless she deviated off her path initially. Because also, you mentioned the ship keeping contact with her was a Navy ship. I was going to mention earlier when you said, but it was a naval vessel. So potentially, she was in contact with them for that reason. Now, granted, she was also probably in contact with them because you're going into a potentially hostile airspace. Because even if they're going over the track they have, they're not far from the borders of Japanese, now Japanese controlled area, and out of the country that is actively hostile to everybody else.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to put the piece of the puzzle together. I don't know if you did or it's just like my ramblings.
That's okay. Also, something that I read on one of my sources too was like, if they didn't consider her to be a spy to try her for espionage, it's possible that if the Japanese had found her crashed airplane and her, there would have been like a huge motivation to rescue them and like be hailed as heroes, and it would have it could have decreased tension between the United States and Japan had they been like, oh my God, we found Amelia Earhart. If you look at it from the opposite of we captured her to torture her for espionage, but you look at it that could have helped.
Even if they captured, they probably would have been under the assumption of espionage regardless.
It wouldn't surprise. Yeah, I mean,
even if she wasn't conducting espionage, they would have a very good reason to believe that she could be committing espionage. Yeah. In Japan, at that time, and still to an extent, certain parts culturally of it, but Japan is a very isolationist culture and country at the time. It's still, the culture is a bit interesting. They did just elect a ultra-conservative prime minister because Japan is not the biggest fan of, outside cultures coming in and kind of muddying their waters. Or muddying theirs. It's
sounds familiar.
But I mean, Japan is a very just culturally homogenous state. And
big words for Elmo.
But I mean, it's different. America was founded as a melting pot of everything.
Yeah,
Japan was not founded as that. They've been very accommodating, but to an extent where some people in their current culture are now starting to incorporate other cultures into theirs. And I've actually seen interesting things on this, where the national identity of Japanese people becomes more muddled in current day society. But it extends all the way back then. Back then they were even more isolationist. And if an outsider from a country, what's supposed to be one of the most powerful countries in the world, crashes in their area, they're going to probably assume espionage first of all.
Yeah. So yes, there was the theory that Earhart was spying on the Japanese at the request of the FDR administration, and therefore many believed that she was captured by them because she was spying for the U.S. government. However, also at the time, the World War II era movie Flight for Freedom, which I think was released in like the early I think it was 1940. It's the story of a fictional female pilot who engages in spying missions in the Pacific. So that helped to kind of fuel this idea that Amelia Earhart was a part of that. So it's possible that that's where, maybe some of that theory comes from. It mirrors her life a lot. Another was that there was another theory or rumor that claimed that Amelia had made propaganda radio broadcasts as one of the many women compelled to serve as Tokyo Roses. This was investigated closely by her husband, George. And if you're like me and you didn't know what a Tokyo Rose was...
I actually knew what they were.
I have done the legwork, though. Tokyo Rose was a name given by Allied troops in the South Pacific during World War II to all female English-speaking radio broadcasters of Japanese propaganda. The programs were broadcast in the South Pacific and North America to demoralize Allied forces abroad and their families at home by emphasizing troops' wartime difficulties and military losses. According to several biographies of Earhart, Putnam investigated this rumor personally, but after listening to many, many recordings of numerous Tokyo Roses, he states he did not recognize her voice among any of them, and therefore many believe this to be discredited theory.
I think most of them were Japanese Americans that were Tokyo Roses.
Yeah.
I believe we did similar tactics as well against the Germans, Italians, and Japanese at the time. We kind of do that even still today to an extent, except for the fact it's now an illegal fight because Voice of America will broadcast throughout the world, especially in areas that have hostilities with us, to give the news to close off populations that are under hostile regimes. However, under Kerry Lake, it has been turned into a MAGA propaganda piece.
Gross.
Yeah, that I follow a little bit along with that, but they've tried to dismantle it from what it was before. So it's just a Trump-serving thing instead of actually trying to spread democracy and freedom to marginalized groups throughout the world. Also, the heater might have kicked on, so sorry if you hear that in the background.
Another theory is called the New Britain theory, which assumes that Amelia made the decision to turn back mid-flight and reach the airfield at Rabaul, New Britain, which is northeast of the mainland of Papua New Guinea, about 2.2 thousand miles from where she should have been landing at Howland Island. In 1990, Donald Angwin, who was a veteran in Australia's army of the World War II New Britain campaign, stated that in 1945 he had seen a wrecked aircraft, specifically a twin-engined, unpainted all-metal aircraft, which was what she was flying, in the jungle that may have been the Electra that Amelia was flying. The soldiers who were with him, so that's Angwin, made a map with the rough position of where that craft was seen, but and that map was found in the possession of another veteran from the same unit in 1993, but there's never been any wreckage found in that area or where that map.
You have 50 years for that to move.
Yeah. Pacific Rex, a website that documents World War II era aircraft crash sites, notes that no Electra has been reported lost in or around Papua New Guinea.
This wouldn't be reported.
Yeah. Rick Gillespie of Tide Harbor believes that based on Earhart's last estimated position, somewhat close to Howland Island, it would be impossible for that aircraft to end up at New Britain over 2,000 miles and over a 13-hour flight time away. So, discredits that theory a little bit too. In November 2006, National Geographic aired an episode of Undiscovered History that alleges that Amelia not only survived the world flight, but she moved to New Jersey, gross, changed her name, remarried, and became Irene Cragmile Bolam.
Man, imagine you got 50 fucking states to move to and you choose New Jersey.
Yeah.
Bozo level activity. Therefore, this has to be fake.
The claim was originally stated in the book Amelia Earhart Lives from 1970 by author Joe Klass, but it was taken off the market when Irene Cragmile Bolam herself filed a $1.5 million lawsuit for damages for being connected and saying that, she was the long lost Amelia Earhart. And so McGraw-Hill ended up withdrawing the book from the market. Subsequently, her personal life history, though, was thoroughly documented by researchers, eliminating any possibility that she was Amelia Earhart.
That's just them trying to quash the flat earthers.
Yeah. Kevin Ricklin, a professional criminal forensic expert hired by National Geographic, also studied photographs of both Irene and Amelia Earhart, and he did cite many measurable facial differences, and so therefore it is also believed that this is discredited as well. And most recently, on September 26th of 2025, our fascist, disgusting, racist, sexist, pedophilic, rapist, President Donald Trump.
Greatest president ever. We keep winning. Look at the gas pump. We're so tired of winning, we had to take higher gas.
Yeah, announced that he had ordered all of the government records concerning Amelia Earhart to be declassified and released. While some FBI files and Navy search reports have been declassified over the decades, some records have remained inaccessible, fueling speculation about a cover-up, such as what Frank was talking about earlier. Trump says, quote, "She disappeared in the South Pacific while trying to become the first woman to fly around the world. Amelia made it almost 3/4 around the world before she suddenly and without notice vanished, never to be seen again."
Oh, no shit without notice. Vanish happens.
Yeah. But the documents due to be declassified and released included all government records related to Amelia Earhart, her final trip, and everything about her. Again, according to Trump. I believe he did release some of the files, but it's another Epstein thing where there's like, again, it just further.
He's just saying dumb
further
shit.
fuels. I was saying further as if it was both. Further fuels the idea that there was some kind of cover up or something going on.
He makes dumb assertions to basically try and fuel the conspiracy base of his following, because a lot of people vote for him because of conspiracy theories. So he tries to fuel and like thrive off of them. And if they can't actually release the Epstein files, then I highly doubt they could properly release this shit. And they apparently declassified all the JFK files, but I call bullshit on that too.
Yeah. They're trying to be like transparent without being transparent.
They're trying just to, like how people greenwash shit for companies. Yeah. He's trying to conspiracy wash his administration for all the conspiracy theorists out there, which conspiracy theorists is growing to an alarming amount in the American population.
That is true.
It's not bad to question things, but it's bad to question plain things like fucking flat earthers.
But is there any other thoughts or anything that you want to give before I read my brief conclusion and we head out of here?
I forget if this is a theory, but possibly she was detained by the U.S. and hidden because of what she might have known.
That I didn't read.
I don't know if I read if that's out there, but I forget.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I do want to say, if you enjoyed our episode, great. If you really want a deep dive, that's like a 3 or 4-parter. Astonishing Legends has like a 4-part series on Amelia Earhart, where they go into some of these very obscure sources that have some of the information that I talked about and go into more detail about it. I originally had this on my side of our episode list to do, but I listened to that 4-part series. I'm like, fuck it. I will need a shitload of time to go through that. I have Abraham Lincoln assassination on that. And from Astonishing Legends, there's actually a huge conspiracy on it.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I have to say,
there might be a secret order attached to it.
Frank and I, not that I don't know what Astonishing Legends does with their lives, but, as we mentioned at the top of the episode, I got a lot going on.
They got to be in shambles.
I'm taking a little bit of a break, and after this, and I didn't have the capacity to research this like I did for the Zodiac Killer. So not a 4-part series, just a little over an hour episode with the brief basics of, Amelia Earhart's life and her disappearance. So
yeah. Well, I think you did a great job on this.
Thank you.
Do we want to go into our final thoughts on this?
Yeah, why don't you give me your final thoughts, and then I'll just read my conclusion, because that's basically my final thoughts.
I am stuck between 2 theories.
Okay.
The crash the plane on an island or ocean, and we just never found it, which we still have not found something, so that's a bit suspicious. I think we would have found something by now.
Yeah, there was like the little piece. I think there may have been a piece found.
There's like every year some story about it, and like it always seems like nothing in the end.
They were able to find a piece from her plane that crashed on the original leg of the trip where they had to like restart when she was trying to fly to Honolulu again. Yeah. And they like have used that to try to match to the other pieces, like to things that they found. But my understanding, I don't think there's anything definitive, of course.
I do have some belief in the Japanese conspiracy that she was either captured or shot down by the Japanese.
I mean, it makes sense. It was that time.
I know. I think that one actually holds a lot more weight to it than what people think, based on some of the accounts by American soldiers and veterans that
and Australian.
See something. Yep. I do think there's a good chance. And I think that is something, if it were to be found by people, there is every reason to cover that up. You would tarnish her legacy, which is a big thing for a lot of people.
Well, she's huge in like women's.
Just to realize she was spying for the American government before a war started.
Also as a female.
Yeah, that would really tarnish her thing and make her look like she was just doing it to be a spy and not really doing it for women's empowerment. That,
and I think too, like, she was a woman, and at that time, like, you would probably get a lot of really sexist men who would be really confused as to why the United States would be using a woman to be the spy.
Or which, like, just think that
she shouldn't be flying.
The view that a woman only was flying because she could be a spy, or the fact that the U.S. thought so little of women that they would be the best spies because people wouldn't look for them.
Yeah, there's so many like nuances to that could.
Yeah, but also we kept like Navajo Code Talkers was top secret for decades. I think. Yeah, like shit we did during the war was top secret for decades. There's probably shit from the war we still are secretive about. Well,
America is not. We don't have a great track record at not violating humans' rights.
The details of the Manhattan Project were not publicly available for a long ass time.
Yeah.
But I kind of lean towards that theory. I could be wrong. I accept if that is wrong. That's just what it just seems. It makes sense logically that the government would request that from her, and that the Japanese would shoot her down or capture her. And it is a country where they did execute prisoners.
It makes sense to me too, in the sense that one, like, why not use this trip to your advantage if you're the United States government? But two, because of like the huge, like, you know, media storm that was around this, which it was like, it was in the media. People waited for her like at the different places that she was landing. Like, I mean, there's like been crowds and stuff that have been identified for her solo flights, things like that, making it like very well known that the intention of this particular flight was to just try to fly around the globe would also take massive suspicion off of a U.S. plane flying over areas of hostility.
And Japan couldn't just outright say they executed and captured her. Because if they found the cameras and then executed her, they would possibly start the war earlier than what they did. They wanted to still keep things, you know, kind of hush-hush until Pearl Harbor attack.
Yeah. So my conclusion, essentially, is, though, that no theory has been proven true about the disappearance of Amelia Earhart and her navigator, Fred Noonan, because no concrete identifiable leads or evidence have ever been found.
It's phenomenal that it's been this long. There's nothing concrete at this point for such a high-profile person.
Her disappearance, though not forgetting that Fred was there too, remains one of the most popular mysteries in American history, and one of the biggest aviation mysteries in the world. Despite her life ending in tragedy, while trying to accomplish a feat not yet done at the time, Amelia Earhart remains an inspiration for women, girls, and future pilots around the world. And that, my friends, concludes our episode on the disappearance of Amelia Earhart.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. It was definitely like a unique thing, you know. I mean, I've done aviation mysteries, and honestly, it was, you know, in a pretty similar place. It was interesting nonetheless. It's definitely different than a whole flight full of passengers and stuff disappearing, but nonetheless, when you have something that's this like touted and shown in the media, it's a huge deal.
So I think that's all I had for today on this. I mean, I find this fascinating. I was really excited to talk about this. I didn't really say much in the beginning because
it was mostly history.
Yeah, I wait for the next part. Are you ready for me to sign us out then?
I am.
All right, well, thank you everyone for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're a big fan of the episode and of the podcast, please check out our other episodes or go check out our socials. Our Instagram is what we use the most. Go It is in the show notes along with all the sources for today's episode. So please go give us a like, comment, follow, review, rate, and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. Every little bit really helps us out. And if you're interested in a talented artist, go check out Puppy Source and the links as well. Their art is phenomenal, used on our logo. And I think that's about it. So, Sage, are you ready for the next part?
Yep.
And remember
To look for
the unknown,
the unsolved,
and the unseen.
Thanks for listening.
Bye, guys. Watch out for them coconut crabs. Pinch, pinch.